So it turns out she's a transmigrator stuck in the body of the villain from a novel. To stay alive, she had to bind herself to a villain system and become its host. From that day on, she began her life of completing missions as a villain across different worlds. These tasks ranged from small-time schemes like slander and sabotage to big-league evil like arson and murder, even destroying entire worlds. The bottom line was she had to be as bad as possible. In this particular world, her name is Ruin Lee. She's the youngest martial ant of the Cloud Immortal sect and is known as its #1 beauty. She was once a cultivation prodigy, the center of everyone's attention, but a training accident caused her to go berserk. Her spiritual meridians were completely shattered, turning her into a powerless nobody. To maintain her stunning beauty, she has to secretly prey on her fellow disciples, draining their life essence to refine into pills for herself. She has 3 main missions in this world: harm her fellow disciples, kill the current sect leader, who is also her senior martial brother, finally get killed by the story's male lead, her own martial nephew. After all, what's the point of being a proper villain if you don't get a grand finale by dying at the hands of the hero? Just before all this, she had finished preying on another disciple. She had just returned to her quarters and was about to wash off the scent of blood when her martial nephew suddenly burst in and tackled her. She was suddenly pinned to the ground by him. The problem was, she was completely powerless to fight back. Her cultivation channels had been destroyed, leaving her as weak as a kitten. She could feel that something was seriously wrong with her nephew. His breathing was ragged, his energy chaotic. She shouted a warning, telling him to look closely and see who she was. Her nephew struggled, his mind clearing for a moment. "Auntie? Is that you? I'm sorry, I think someone drugged me. Is there a cure?" This was a tough one. Her eyes darted around and landed on a basin of water nearby. Summoning the last bit of her magical energy, she made the basin wobble into the air and float over to them, drenching them both like a pair of drowned rats. "Are you sober now?" she asked. "Auntie, I think I'm still a little..." Splash. "How about now?" Okay, thank you, Auntie. Now that you're sober, get out." Although he's since regained his senses and she's kicked him out of the room, he's been kneeling outside her door, refusing to leave. He thinks she's furious and has decided to kneel there until she calms down. Sighing, she opens the door again to send him away, only to be met with his sincere apology. "I was wrong to disturb you, Aunt. If you haven't forgiven me, I won't leave. Please punish me as you see fit." "But I'm not angry," she says. "And I have no intention of punishing you. You said you were set up, which means it wasn't intentional. Just be more careful from now on so it doesn't happen again. Now go." Her nephew's eyes widened. His master, the sect leader, had drilled one lesson into him since childhood. Failure was not an option. "You are different from the other disciples. You are gifted the hope of our sect. A child of destiny is not allowed to make mistakes. You must be a role model for everyone. You cannot be weak. You cannot be discouraged. And you absolutely cannot cause trouble." But just now, his aunt had told him she wasn't mad at all. For the first time in his life, he felt a warmth spread through his chest. It was the first time anyone had ever said something like that to him. As if on cue, the person who had drugged him appeared. Xiao Chani, a relative of the sect leader. She strolled up, pretending to be oblivious, and tried to link her arm with his. He immediately shook her off. "Are you done with your act?" he demanded. Xiao Chani's eyes instantly filled with tears. "Senior brother, please don't be angry. I had no idea you were allergic to that tea." He didn't buy it for a second. After pushing her away, he gave her a stern warning. "Out of respect for the sect leader, I won't expose your little game in public. But if you bother me again, I won't be so courteous." Xiaowani's expression turned cold as she watched him walk away. She couldn't understand it. He drank the potion, so why was he so clear-headed? Then it hit her. He had come from the direction of the back mountain. Could it be? After the drug made him pounce on his aunt, he went back to his room and had an eventful dream. The next morning, he woke up to a rather embarrassing surprise in his bed. which was unfortunately witnessed by his junior brother. "Don't worry, senior brother," the junior said, with a knowing grin. "It's springtime, I get it. I'll go grab you a clean pair of trousers. Shut up and get out." After getting dressed, he immediately set off to find his aunt. Meanwhile, his aunt was frowning at a roster of names. As a transmigrator playing the villainess, her mission required her to kill a few fellow disciples every 2 months. But she wasn't a monster. She only targeted the hypocrites and scumbags. For instance, the disciples she had dealt with last night were the same ones who had assaulted a farmer's daughter in the village a few months prior. It just goes to show that even a villain isn't purely evil. Just then, her nephew arrived to inform her that there was an urgent assembly in the main hall. On the way, she noticed he looked pale and asked if he'd had a nightmare. He blushed, said nothing, and just turned away and started walking faster. Soon, everyone from the Cloud Immortal sect was gathered in the main hall. The urgent matter was, of course, related to the murders on the back mountain last night. It turned out a serial killer had been operating within the sect for some time, and they still had no leads. With the Trianal Immortal Sect Conference just 3 months away, this was a serious problem. If they didn't solve the case, the Cloud Immortal Sect would become a laughingstock. The elders tasked the sect's head disciple, Bailey Yankee, her nephew, with the case. He had to find the killer and deliver justice for the sect and the deceased disciples. "Yes, of course. There's nothing our senior brother can't do," the crowd murmured. Yankee lowered his head, his expression complicated. Suddenly, a teacup was thrust in front of him. "This tea is bitter," his aunt commanded. "Go get me a new cup." Yankee took the cup and bowed respectfully. Immediately, the disciples' whispered gossip shifted to his aunt. "I heard that Marshal Aunt Ruan Lee was the sect leader's last disciple, and she's the current leader's junior sister. She used to have incredible potential, but got reckless, had a training accident, and her meridians were destroyed. She's basically useless now. Even so, the selle on her, even letting a like her sit in on important meetings." Hearing this, Yankee shot the two gossipers a warning glare, but it also made him realize just how much his aunt was looked down upon by the others. And yet, she was so clever. She had noticed him spacing out and used the tea as an excuse to snap him out of it. Just then, the Soleil addressed him again. "Yankee, you cannot be lazy with this investigation. You must find the killer within half a month." Yankee accepted the order. Then his aunt spoke up, offering a clue. "This morning, I examined the bodies. They were all stabbed multiple times before being strangled. The ligature marks from the silk thread go from bottom to top, which means the killer enjoys torture and is relatively short. If you narrow your search with that in mind, you should be able to eliminate a lot of suspects." Yankee thanked his aunt, surprised that she had helped him once again. After the meeting, Ruan Lee's system curiously asked her, "Aren't you afraid the male lead will trace those clues right back to you if you're so blatant?" Ruan Lee seemed completely unconcerned. "I can't stand seeing them pile all that pressure onto a kid," she replied. "Besides, isn't it better to move the plot along faster?" He'd been drugged by his junior sister and had nearly assaulted his own aunt. So he was completely baffled when that same junior sister showed up the next day, acting as if nothing had happened. He had already warned her the night before, but she was impossibly thick-skinned. "Senior brother, investigating must be tiring. Come try these pastries I learned to make." "No, thank you. I thought I made myself clear last night, but I already apologized. Why won't you forgive me?" Onlookers started to mutter amongst themselves. "Junior sister is so cute. What could she have possibly done that's so unforgivable? Senior brother is being so unreasonable." The junior sister then tried to force the box of pastries into his hands, but he kept refusing. Just then, a clear female voice cut through the air from a short distance away. "What's the difference between forced kindness and malice?" His aunt stood there looking nonchalant. "Sorry, I was just reciting a line from a book I was reading. Did I interrupt something?" Yankee bowed politely to his aunt. She had saved him from an awkward situation yet again. This, however, infuriated the junior sister. She couldn't believe how close Yankee and his aunt seemed. Just then, the same gossipy disciple from before started running his mouth again. "So that's the useless Marshal Aunt Ruan. She's beautiful, I'll give her that. But her tongue is sharp. So much for acting like an elder taking passive-aggressive jabs at junior sister." Yankee's face darkened. He immediately ordered the guards to seize the disciple for disrespecting an elder. "Take him to the ancestral hall and whip him 100 times." The disciple immediately started begging for forgiveness, but it was no use. The other disciples had never seen their senior brother Yankee so angry. It was clear his aunt held a special place in his heart. A little while later, his aunt mentioned she was going down the mountain to buy a few things. Worried for her safety with the serial killer still on the loose, Yankee insisted on going with her, offering to carry her things. On the way back, he noticed that his aunt didn't abstain from food like most cultivators, and had a particular fondness for sweets. In that sense, she was just like any other girl. When she caught him staring at the bag of sweet chestnuts in her arms, she thought he wanted some. "Would you like one?" she asked. He turned away, flustered. The sect leader taught me that the head disciple must act like one. The next second, a peeled chestnut was popped directly into his mouth. "You clearly wanted one. You've been staring the whole way. Why didn't you just say so?" His face flushed red all the way to his ears. Just like before, he suddenly sped up and walked ahead of her. After he helped put her new things away in her room, he went to report to the sect leader. His master asked if there was any progress on the murder case. Yankee answered honestly, saying he hadn't found any suspects yet. But he had discovered something interesting. The disciples killed last night had assaulted a young woman in the village half a year ago, driving her to suicide. Furthermore, he found that all the victims from previous years had also committed shameful acts. "They deserve to die" was a fitting description. It seemed the killer was acting as a vigilante. But something was off. A typical righteous person would expose the criminal's deeds and turn them over to the sect for punishment. This killer, however, chose to torture and murder them in secret. This suggested the killer had lost all faith in the sect's authority and justice, choosing to take matters into their own hands. The sect leader was stunned, realizing the sect had lost its credibility in someone's eyes. He told his disciple to continue the investigation and solve the case before the immortal sect conference. Just as he was about to leave, Yankee knelt again. "Master, I have one more thing to report. Winter is coming, and Marshal Aunt Ruin Lee's residence on the back mountain is severely lacking in supplies. She doesn't even have a single winter item. Could we arrange to have some sent to her?" The sect leader sighed. His junior sister was still keeping everything bottled up inside. She was going to make herself sick one day. He decided to have Yoni take Ruan Lee and a few other disciples to the Immortal Sect conference next month. It would be a good chance for her to get out and relax. But her mission demanded that she kill someone tonight. As a transmigrator playing the villainess, if she didn't kill someone every 2 months, the system would kill her. The deadline was fast approaching. The problem was, there were only a dozen or so disciples with them. If one of them died, the chances of her being caught were dangerously high. But even before she could make a move, she had already managed to annoy nearly every other girl in the group. Why does senior brother Yankee spend all his time hovering around Marshal Aunt Ruan? We can barely get a word in with him. Just then, the junior sister, Xiaowani, shot her a venomous glare from across the campfire. At that exact moment, Yankee leaned in close to his aunt. "Aunt, we brought back some game from the hunt. What would you like? I'll roast it for you." "I like rabbit." So Yankee obediently started roasting a rabbit for her. He had always assumed girls couldn't bear to eat cute little rabbits. But his aunt was different. When the meat was cooked, she began eating with a look of pure bliss. Yankee watched her with a fond smile. He never knew that beneath her cold exterior, she could have such an adorable expression. "Eat slowly," he said gently. "If you like it, I can cook more." Watching from a distance, Xiaowani's heart soured with jealousy. Why did his aunt get all of Yankee's attention? Just because her cultivation was ruined? Did that mean her hands were crippled too? Couldn't she roast her own meat? After everyone had eaten, they settled down for the night, leaning against each other for warmth. Yankee was on patrol duty. As he made his rounds, his gaze once again fell upon his aunt. When she was resting, the cold, sharp edges of her personality seemed to melt away. She looked like an ordinary girl. Technically, she was over 100 years old, but with her eyes closed, she looked no older than a young woman who had just come of age. Suddenly, the cloak draped over her shoulders slipped off. He hesitated for a moment before deciding to gently pull it back up for her. As he did, she shifted, her body leaning unsteadily against his. She was sound asleep, and he didn't have the heart to wake her. His hand hovered near her cheek, but he pulled it back, scolding himself for even thinking of being so improper. Time passed. In the dead of night, while everyone was asleep, a female disciple snuck away. "Senior brother Q, where are you?" "I'm here, junior sister. Right on time." "We don't have long. Let's get started before anyone notices." The next second, his aunt, who had appeared to be sound asleep, was suddenly awake. She nudged the dozing Yankee. "Wake up, there's a demon." Yankee immediately sprang to his feet and shouted, "All disciples on my command! Form ranks and prepare to fight!" The disciples scrambled to form a sword formation. Just as they did, several vicious vines shot out from the ground, terrifying them. "Don't be afraid," his aunt called out calmly. "Use your fire spells and focus your attacks on the demon's weak central core." Yankee ordered everyone to follow her instructions. A dozen disciples unleashed their power in unison, and the ferocious vines were instantly burned to a crisp. A wave of excitement washed over them. It was the first time they had ever successfully killed a demon. It's all thanks to Aunt's guidance. Surrounded by praising disciples, his aunt was a little taken back. Yankee watched from the side with a proud smile. It seemed everyone was finally starting to accept her. She used to be the most despised aunt in the entire sect, but after she helped the disciples slay a demon in the wilderness, her popularity skyrocketed. Now when they checked into an inn, the disciples were practically fighting over who got to pay for her room. While this was a good thing, Yankee found himself feeling a bit jealous. It used to be just him by her side, but now she was always surrounded by a crowd of people. It was frustrating. That night, as he bathed in his room, he wondered why he felt so unhappy about her newfound popularity. Suddenly, he overheard a discussion from the room next door. "I got closer to Aunt today and realized she's actually really cute. She's not cold and unapproachable like the rumors say. She's really nice. I wonder what kind of man she'll end up with." A surge of anger went through Yankee. These junior brothers needed to be taught a lesson. How dare they have designs on his aunt? Just then, he heard a strange noise outside his door. He quickly threw on a robe and rushed out just in time to see a shadowy figure dart away. As he was about to give chase, he noticed a freshly killed body lying on the floor behind him. He decided to examine the body first. The cause of death was identical to the previous victims back at the sect. The disciple had been brutally tortured before being strangled with a silk thread. By now, the commotion had drawn out all the male disciples. The victim had been sharing a room with junior brother Chen, so naturally suspicion fell on him first. "It wasn't me, I swear," Chan insisted. "I was asleep in my room the whole time and didn't hear a thing. For some reason, I slept incredibly deeply tonight." Suddenly, Yankee spoke up in his defense. "He's not the killer. Based on the state of the body, the silk thread nearly severed the neck. The murder just happened, which means the killer's palms would have ligature marks, possibly even bleeding. Junior brother Chan's hands are perfectly clean." The other male disciples quickly showed their own palms, all of which were clean, clearing them of suspicion. Just then, his aunt and the female disciples arrived. Yankee explained that junior brother Q was dead, and that the killer would have injuries on their palms. The male disciples had all been checked. Now it was the women's turn. His aunt was extremely cooperative, telling all the female disciples to show their hands. Everyone complied willingly except for junior sister Sue, who looked panicked. When it was her turn, she hesitated, keeping her fists clenched. "Open them," Yankee commanded coldly. She slowly extended her hands. It must have been an outsider who followed them. The investigation was about to conclude when the junior sister, Jiao Qiani, suddenly spoke up. "There's still one person who hasn't been checked." She pointed a finger. Her. Our aunt. Yankee trusted his aunt implicitly, as did the other disciples. "There's no way. How could Aunt kill someone? She doesn't have any powers. How could she have overpowered junior brother Q?" But the junior sister was insistent. "If she's innocent, why is she afraid to show her hands? Do you dare open them and let us see?" She was the serial killer, the mastermind behind it all, and now she was being investigated by her own nephew, the man who was falling in love with her. This was the closest she had ever come to being exposed. If he saw the marks from the silk thread on her hands, every disciple present would know the truth. As her nephew began his inspection, he was just as nervous. silently praying that she wasn't the killer he was looking for. As she slowly unfurled her fingers, her palms were revealed to be perfectly clean, with no marks whatsoever. Her name was instantly cleared. The disciples began to murmur among themselves, concluding that the killer must be an outsider who had stalked them all the way here. Yankee ordered everyone to travel in groups of 3 or more and to take turns standing watch to avoid anyone being caught alone. Everyone paired up and returned to their rooms, except for junior sister Sue, who was still lurking suspiciously in the hallway. Yankee happened to be waiting just outside. She jumped, startled. "It was you, wasn't it?" Yankee questioned her directly. "Senior brother, I don't know what you're talking about. The scent on you is the same as the knockout incense in junior brother Q's room. It's faint, but I smelled it when I was checking your hands. If I'm not mistaken, the incense is still in your sleeve. Were you on your way to dispose of it?" Just as he said it, a small vial of incense powder fell from her sleeve. She had no way to deny it now. "Why?" Yankee asked. She finally broke down, spitting out the truth. "That bastard deserved to die. I made a mistake and accidentally damaged a book in the library. He promised to cover for me and not tell anyone. I thought he was being kind, but he had other plans. He used it as blackmail to violate me month after month. Later, I found out I wasn't the only one. Many other female disciples in the sect had suffered the same abuse. Even out here in the wilderness, he tried it again. I couldn't take it anymore, so I killed him. I've already confessed. I'm ready to accept my punishment. Arrest me." "No." Yankee said, "You're not the killer. I won't arrest you. You may have been the one to drug them, but you weren't the one who did the killing. Knowing your personality, you wouldn't have been able to stay so calm after murdering someone. Besides, your bill doesn't match the figure I saw leaving the scene. Someone helped you, didn't they?" Junior sister Q stared at him, stunned. Meanwhile, back in her room, Marshall, Aunt Rue, and Lee washed her hands. As the water ran over her palms, a clear red line from a silk thread became visible. It turned out she had used a special illusion talisman to cover the wound when she went to the crime scene, which is why no one saw it. Just then, her nephew Yankee came to her door. Through his conversation with junior sister Q, he had learned that the killer was a woman, in a black robe with a build very similar to his aunt's. At the time of the murder, all the other female disciples were in pairs or groups. Only Ruin Lee was alone with no alibi. Could he really bring himself to suspect her? As he stood there conflicted, Ruin Lee offered him a cup of hot tea. "You must be exhausted from leading the team these past few days. Have some tea." Yankee hesitated. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder echoed outside. Ruin Lee yelped and instinctively threw herself into his arms, dropping the tea, which shattered on the floor. She trembled in his embrace. Yankee was momentarily stunned, but seeing her so terrified, he pushed all thoughts of the investigation aside. Before long, she had fallen asleep in his arms. He had known her for so long, but this was the first time he realized she was afraid of thunder. She seemed so fragile, as if she would break at the slightest touch. Thanks to the storm, Ruan Lee had narrowly avoided being exposed. Her genuine fear had made her nephew so sympathetic that he had completely forgotten to check her hands for injuries. Ever since that night, she had sought refuge in his arms during the thunderstorm. He couldn't control his own heart. All the teachings from his master about being a gentleman and maintaining propriety went out the window whenever he was near her. He felt ashamed. The next morning, as everyone was preparing to leave for the Immortal Mountain, he acted completely out of character and started avoiding his aunt. Previously, he had always been the one to personally carry her on his sword for travel, but this time, he assigned another female disciple to the task. Ruan Lee sensed his intentions, and though she was a little confused, she went along with his arrangement. Soon, the disciples of the Cloud Immortal sect arrived at the Immortal Mountain. The great sect conference was set to begin in 3 days. That evening, Yankee went for a walk, and without realizing it, found himself standing outside his aunt's room. He didn't even know why he was there. His feet had just carried him. He felt a pang of guilt. If his aunt knew about the dreams he'd been having, she would surely be disgusted with him. Suddenly, the door opened, and she stepped out. He froze completely, at a loss for words. "Marshall, nephew Yankee, what are you doing outside my door?" I was on patrol." "It's late, Aunt. Where are you headed?" "I couldn't sleep. I'm just going out for some air." As they walked, Yankee followed closely behind her. Ruan Li found his behavior odd. He was keeping his distance, yet still trying to protect her. Suddenly, an old acquaintance of Ruan Li's sect leader, Zhang Qinfang of the Lin sect, appeared before them. Friend Ruan Li, it's been a while. You're as beautiful as ever. Do you remember me? No. Move. Wait, I heard you had a cultivation accident and lost all your spiritual power. Why don't you let me check your pulse for you? The next second, Zhang Qinfang's hand was caught in a vice-like grip. Yankee glared at him, his voice ice cold. Z-Master, please conduct yourself with dignity. The sheer pressure radiating from Yankee was palpable, and even a man of Zhang Fang's cultivation level felt a sense of danger. He wisely decided to back off. When they were alone again, Ruan Li asked, Yankai, you've always been the most level-headed of all the disciples. Why did you just show so much killing intent? Yankee's face darkened, and he didn't answer. His aunt couldn't possibly know that for a brief moment, he had wanted to gouge out Zhang Qinfang's eyes for looking at her with such disrespect. Seeing that he wouldn't answer, she continued, If a situation like that happens again, you can find a private place and beat him up. But if you make an enemy of a petty man in public, he'll hold a grudge and might cause trouble for you later. Yankee realized she was worried about him. Aunt? He asked, confused. Why are you so good to me? Because I suppose I like you. Yankee's heart nearly stopped. Was this the confession he had been waiting for? But then she added, Your character and appearance are impeccable. Most importantly, you respect your elders and care for the young. It's hard for me not to like a junior like you. And just like that, his dream was shattered again. 3 days later, the Centennial Immortal Sect Conference began. Each of the 12 participating sects sent 6 disciples to compete in one-on-one matches. The final winner would receive a top-grade magical weapon. In the crowd, Ruan Li looked worriedly at her nephew. When you're fighting, don't be too competitive. Just fight until a winner is clear. Don't get hurt. He nodded, telling her not to worry. Just then, the disciples noticed something strange on the viewing platform. That's odd. Among the 12 sect leaders' seats, the one for the Lin sect is empty. I heard that their sect leader, Zhang Qinfang, was taking a leak last night, somehow slipped and fell into a manure pit. He's still unconscious. Hearing this, Yankee, who was standing in the crowd, couldn't help but feel a little cheerful. He was the male lead, yet he had fallen for the villainous. And now, just as things were getting interesting, the female lead of the story showed up, trying to get him to switch love interests. This female lead was Xiao Shan Yun from the Kong sect. She was beautiful, talented, and the pride of her sect. According to the original novel's plot, the male lead, Yankee, was supposed to be matched against her in the competition. They would be evenly matched, tie for first place, and then travel the world together, fighting ancient beasts. After numerous life and death situations, they would become a legendary couple. But the plot had taken a strange turn. When Yankee saw Xiao Shenyun, the supposed love of his life, he felt absolutely nothing. In fact, he made a silent vow once he won the tournament and caught the killer. He would confess his feelings to his aunt. As fate would have it, Yankee and Xiao Shenyun were drawn to fight each other. The crowd was buzzing, already shipping them as a couple. After all, they were the 2 most talented disciples of their generation, and their sects were of equal standing. It was a match made in heaven. But strangely, Yankee stood on the stage, refusing to start the fight. His gaze kept darting over to where his aunt Ruan Li was sitting. Only when she finally woke up from her nap and was ready to watch, did he turn to Xiao Shenyun and tell her to begin. From her seat, his aunt thought, What is this silly nephew doing? The match is about to start and he's still looking at me. According to the original plot, their fight was supposed to end in a draw. That meant Xiao Shenyun was no pushover. But as soon as they began to fight, the unexpected happened. Yankee made just 2 moves, and Xiao Shenyun was soundly defeated. Everyone had expected a long, hard-fought battle, but he had won with shocking ease. With Xiao Shenyun's defeat, the Cloud Immortal sect was victorious. Ruan Li watched, bewildered. The original plot had been completely derailed. After the match, Yankee's gaze landed on her again, his expression practically begging for her praise. All these recent events were just too strange. At night, she was gazing at the moon from a pavilion when Yankee found her again. Seeing she was only wearing a thin robe, he took a blanket from his storage space and draped it over her shoulders. "Aunt, the night wind is cold." "You don't have any spiritual energy to protect you, so you should keep warm." Ruan Li paused for a second, staring blankly at him before murmuring that she was heading back. The large cloak made her small frame seem even more delicate. Suddenly, Yankee's eyes widened as if he'd just realized something. A drop of cold sweat trickled down his temple. The sight of his aunt wrapped in the cloak. It was an exact match for his memory of the shadowy figure of the serial killer. He quickly followed her back to her residence. Unwilling to believe his own intuition, he made up an excuse to stay in her room a little longer. "I feel like I'm on the verge of a breakthrough these past few days, but I can't seem to make it happen. Aunt, could you perhaps offer some guidance?" Ruan Li, completely unsuspecting, agreed. She sat on the bed and began circulating her energy to help him. As she did, Yankee confirmed it. Aside from some residual core energy in her dantian, she had absolutely no cultivation power. He had also taken a quick look around the room and found nothing suspicious. Just then, the Linsect leader, Zhang Qinfeng, who was still nursing a grudge against Yankee, crept up to the door. Seeing the aunt and nephew alone together in a room, he became enraged. He lit a stick of aphrodisiac incense and stuck it through a crack in the door, planning to make Yankee pay. The moment her nephew smelled the scent, he knew something was wrong. But his aunt Ruan Li was already flushed red and collapsing into his arms. Because of her past injury, she had no cultivation power to suppress the drug's effects. He had to find a way to clear her head, and fast. The next second, she pulled him in for a forceful kiss, her voice soft and pleading. "Help me." He grabbed her wandering hands. "Aunt, this will only make it worse." He then gently laid her down on the bed. "You've always been the one to teach me. Now it's my turn to teach you something else." With that, he leaned down and kissed the smooth skin of her chest. She bit her lip, still fighting for control. But eventually, her consciousness slipped away entirely. Meanwhile, Zhang Qinfeng, the man who had drugged them, had rounded up a group of elders in the middle of the night, intending to catch them in the act. He confidently threw open the door to Ru and Li's room. But instead of a scandalous scene, he found Ru and Li sitting alone at a tea table, reading a book. When she saw them, she feigned confusion. "To what do I owe the pleasure of this late-night visit?" Zhang Qinfeng, realizing he'd been played, flew into a rage. "Stop pretending. An hour ago, I saw you and Yankee in this room with my own eyes. Where did you hide him?" Ru and Li chuckled softly. "I generally keep to myself and dislike visitors. Why would you make up such slanderous lies about me? And besides, how did you know someone was in my room in the first place?" Zhang Qinfeng was speechless. The elders dragged him away and had his Linsect officially removed from the conference roster. After everyone was gone, Ru and Li called out towards a wardrobe behind her. "You can come out now." Yankee emerged from the closet, a bright red handprint visible on his cheek. "Aunt, I was wrong. Just go and don't tell a soul about what happened tonight." The door slammed shut. Ruan Li stood there, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt like something new was starting to grow inside her. The Immortal Sect conference continued for 9 days, ending with Yankee from the Cloud Immortal Sect taking first place. The disciples were all ecstatic, eager to return home and share the news. Yankee, however, was preoccupied with how he was going to confess to his aunt. He even sent away the junior sister who was supposed to escort her on the journey back, planning to take her himself. Once the other disciple was gone, Yankee wrapped an arm around his aunt's waist and stepped onto his sword. "Why are you holding me so tightly, Aunt? You have no spiritual energy to protect you. I don't want you to catch a chill in the air." "Then why are you flying so slowly? The fog is thick today." "This is safer. If you're cold, Aunt, you can lean in closer. It's warmer." Ruan Li sighed. Arguing would probably be more trouble than it was worth, so she just let him be. He, on the other hand, was already making plans. After he caught the killer, he would resign from his position as head disciple and spend the rest of his days protecting his aunt in her seclusion on the back mountain. He had just made up his mind to confess to his aunt, but upon their return, she was immediately summoned and reprimanded by the sect. While he was being praised and rewarded for winning the conference, his aunt was being scolded by an elder for the death of a disciple during their trip. "Ruin Li, you useless. You let my disciple Q be harmed by villains under your watch. You should be severely punished." "You just called me a useless," she retorted calmly. "Did you really expect a useless to protect the disciples?" Just then, the ever-meddling Xiao Chani stepped forward, claiming she also had an accusation to make against Martial Aunt Ruan Li. She alleged that Ruan Li had acted dictatorially, refused to participate in group activities, and failed in her duty as a leader after the disciples' death. Therefore, she deserved to be punished. Hearing this, the elder's scolding grew even more self-righteous. Yankee couldn't stand it any longer. "Elder," he interjected, "you are the one who writes our sex rules. Have you forgotten what you've written? While the rules do state that a master will be punished by whipping if a disciple is harmed under their watch, it only applies if the master has the power and ability to protect them. My aunt has no cultivation and no combat ability, so that rule doesn't apply to her. In fact, many of the disciples on this trip saw their skills improve thanks to her guidance. If anyone is to be held responsible, it should be me, the head disciple. I am willing to accept the punishment." The elder was left fuming and speechless. Jiao Chani was stunned. She had only meant to cause a little trouble for his aunt, but she never expected Yankee to defend her so fiercely. "This has nothing to do with senior brother. It's all Aunt Ru and Lee's fault," she insisted. The next moment, she was drowned out by a chorus of accusations from the other disciples. "That's enough, junior sister. How long are you going to be so unreasonable? You're just slandering Martial Aunt Ruan Li. We were wrong about you." One by one, the disciples stepped forward to defend Ruan Li. "What junior sister Xiao said isn't true. Martial Aunt Ruan Li is actually very kind under her cold exterior, and she helped us just as much as senior brother did. If someone must be punished, punish us. No, punish me. Me. There's no need to punish them," Yankee declared. "I alone will accept the punishment." With that, he turned and walked out of the main hall to receive his sentence, leaving the sect leader in a very awkward position. If looks could kill, the disciples' glares would have annihilated him 1,000 times over. To quell the dissent, the sect leader punished Xiaoani for slandering an elder, sentencing her to 3 nights of reflection. 2 hours later, Yankee returned to his room to meditate and heal from his wounds. Suddenly, his door opened. It was his aunt. He had endured 80 lashes without a single sound, but the moment she started applying medicine to his back, he cried out in pain. After she finished bandaging him, she blushed, hastily, packed up the medicine and turned to leave. But as she did, her leg suddenly felt weak, and she nearly fell. He caught her just in time. In the process, her hand accidentally pressed against a rather sensitive part of his body. A jolt went through him. "Are you okay?" she asked, completely oblivious. "Did I hit something? Let me rub it for you." He quickly grabbed her hand. "And if you rub that, we're going to have a problem." "Oh, then you can rub it yourself. I'm leaving." Ruinly returned to her own room and mysteriously pulled a single pill from a hidden compartment in her incense burner. Tonight, she had a big job to do. Assassinate the sect leader. Later that night, she donned her black cloak once more and made her way to a hidden cave where she lay in wait for the sect leader. But the person who appeared at the cave's entrance was not the sect leader, but her nephew, Yankee. His eyes were full of suspicion. "Aunt, why are you out here so late with a dagger?" Once again, her cloaked figure overlapped with his memory of the serial killer. He couldn't believe it. Why did it have to be her? Just then, they heard rustling sounds from outside the cave again. Runley quickly pushed Yankee deeper inside and fed him an invisibility pill. "Don't make a sound, and don't ask questions." A moment later, a flirtatious female voice drifted in from outside. "Oh, Master, you're so naughty." Yankee was shocked. Why would the sect leader be meeting with a female disciple, here in the middle of the night? He then watched in disbelief as the two shared a passionate kiss, before the Sele eagerly tore off her outer robes, promising her the best cultivation pills next month. Hearing this, Yankee could no longer contain his rage. His master, the man who always preached about fairness and justice, was using sect resources to take advantage of female disciples. Ruinly sensed his anger and quickly shushed him. Seeing the look on her face, he wondered if she had known about this all along. The two of them were pressed tightly together in the dark, as the sounds from the other side of the cave grew more and more heated. Yankee was starting to feel overwhelmed. If this continued, he wasn't sure he could control himself around his aunt. He was pressed into a corner, body to body with the woman he loved, while on the other side of the cave, his master's affair was playing out in vivid detail. He was reaching his breaking point. To make matters worse, his aunt shifted slightly, her body accidentally bumping against a very hard part of his. For a moment, she seemed to realize what was happening. Yankee took the opportunity to lean his head on her shoulder. "Aunt," he pleaded, "can I just lean on you for a moment? Just a moment." A drop of cold sweat ran down her temple. If this kept up, the Sele would definitely discover them. "Stealing herself," she whispered. "All right, I'll help you rub it." His heart skipped a beat. He immediately pulled her into a tight embrace. "Yankee, don't push your luck." "Aunt, can you say my name again?" "Let go of me, please." "Aunt, grant me this." Yenshi. Before long, the affair on the other side concluded. The female disciple took the chance to ask the sect leader for a promotion, noting that the disciple in charge of sect allowances had recently died in a training accident. But the sect leader, who had been so affectionate moments before, suddenly grabbed her by the throat. "A pet," he hissed, "shouldn't covet things that don't belong to it." He squeezed until she was nearly suffocating, forcing her to beg for her life, before he finally let go, reminding her to remember her place. Once the two of them had left, Ronley and Yankee could finally breathe. They stepped out of the cave, Yankee's expression grim. "What's it like?" Ruin Lee asked. "To find out the master you've always revered as a monster in disguise." "Cat got your tongue?" Yankee hung his head, unable to form a coherent sentence. Finally, she laid it all out for him. "Yankee, everyone has two sides. Take me, for example. I am the aunt you respect, but I'm also the vicious serial killer the disciples all talk about. The one who preys on her own." Yankee's head snapped up, his expression hardening as he drew his sword and pointed it at her. "I want to hear you say it." "It's just as you see," she replied. "If I don't use forbidden pills to maintain this body, I would have died long ago. As for those rapists and murderers, if their lives can be of use to me, why should I play the saint? Don't think of people as too good, but don't think of them as too evil either. In the end, I'm just a selfish person. If you want to kill me and avenge your fellow disciples, then do it now." She knew this confession meant her mission was a failure, but being killed by Yankee was surely less painful than being erased by the system. She might as well die here. But the next moment, she wasn't met with the cold steel of his blade, but with his warm embrace. "Don't try to fool me, Aunt," he whispered. "The person I see is not a bloodthirsty monster. You're the person who would risk getting scratched to save a stray cat. You're the person who would generously help those in need. The aunt I know is an upright and kind woman, better than anyone else in this world. According to the sex rules, if we can gather enough evidence to prove that those you killed deserve to die, your sentence won't be so severe. Let me gather the evidence, and we'll confess everything together." "You're quite the planner," she said, a hint of softness in her voice. "But what if the Say leader and the elders insist on executing me? Then I will die in your place." "Why?" "Because I love you. You've protected me so many times. This time, let me protect you." Ruin Lee's heart stirred, but in the next second she raised her hand and knocked him unconscious. She looked at him with a complicated expression. "Your life is your own," she said softly. "You don't need to entrust it to anyone, especially not me. I still have something I must do." As he lost consciousness, watching her walk away, his mind screamed, "Come back! Don't do something stupid." The cultivation prodigy had become a powerless overnight. all because the senior brother she trusted most wanted to possess her, to turn her into his personal plaything. She endured it for 5 long years waiting. Today the time was finally right. She approached her senior brother, the sect leader, feigning innocence and holding a wooden box. She claimed to have found some rare pills and wanted to offer them to him. He led her into a secret chamber behind his study before taking the box and opening it. It was empty. In that split second of distraction, Ruan Li drew a hidden blade and plunged it into his chest. "Your cultivation? It's restored?" he gasped in disbelief. "No," she replied coldly. "I just took a spirit-gathering pill. It converted all the lifeblood I've accumulated over the years into a single day's worth of power." The sect leader was horrified. The spirit-gathering pill was a last resort. Once its effects wore off, the user's mind and senses would be completely destroyed. By doing this, you've left yourself no way out. "Did you leave me a way out when you destroyed me all those years ago?" She shot back. "I was only 13. I looked up to you like a real brother. But at the most critical moment of my cultivation breakthrough, a mysterious person broke into my room and shattered my spiritual core. In the struggle, I managed to scratch his neck. From that day on, my cultivation was gone, and I could never practice again. A prodigy became a waste, while the culprit remained hidden. That night, distraught, I came to you for comfort, only to see the exact same scratch mark on your neck. I never imagined that you, the person closest to me, were the one who pushed me into this abyss. In that moment, I understood my only path forward was revenge. So now I'm going to return the favor 1,000 times over." Runley lunged at him again, but he suddenly regained his strength and knocked her to the ground. The wound in his chest healed before her very eyes. "Junior sister," he sneered. "You're just as arrogant as you were back then. Did you really think I'd be so careless? But what can I say? I'm obsessed with you. So obsessed that I had to personally clip your wings just to watch you struggle by my side. I've known all along that you were the one killing those disciples. I just chose to turn a blind eye. Do you know why? Because watching you fall from a genius to from the righteous path to the demonic, it brings me so much pleasure." Enraged, Ruan Li pulled a hidden needle from her robes and stabbed him in the left eye. He screamed in pain and slammed his hand on a hidden mechanism on a nearby furnace. The floor of the secret chamber split open, and Ruan Li fell through. She landed in a room where every wall was covered with portraits of her. The sect leader descended behind her holding a chain. "While you were hiding on the back mountain, I came here every day thinking of you, using these to console myself. Why don't you just stay here and truly become my little pet?" The next second, Ruan Li produced another dagger from her sleeve and stabbed him in the chest again. This time, he had miscalculated. The wound was real and severe. She picked up her sword and pointed it at his throat. "Did you really underestimate the determination of someone seeking revenge? Did you think I came here unprepared?" Sensing his imminent death, the sect leader began to gravel. "Don't come any closer. Junior sister, egg you spare my life. Do you know what you look like right now? A dog waiting to be slaughtered. But even if you kill me, the sect elders and disciples will never let you go. Who cares? This world lost its meaning for me a long time ago." She gathered her remaining power for the final blow. But just as she was about to strike, her nephew suddenly appeared and blocked her path. She saw the fresh wound on his wrist and realized he must have injured himself to regain his senses and follow her. He took the sword from her hand and pointed it at her. A cold sweat ran down her back. If she didn't kill the sect leader before being killed by her nephew, her mission would be a failure and the system would erase her completely. The wounded sect leader laughed maniacally. "Yankee, my boy, you're just in time. Seize this and avenge your master." Her nephew raised the sword high above his head. Ruan Li closed her eyes, thinking it was all over. But then the blade changed its trajectory mid-air and swung down, striking not her, but the sect leader. Ruan Li was stunned. Her nephew had chosen to help her. My disciple? No. Yankee, you dare to kill your own master? The sect leader gasped, clinging to life. Why wouldn't I? Yankee replied coldly. You crippled my aunt, abused your own disciples, and treated human life as worthless. Dying 100, even 1,000 times over wouldn't be enough. But there's one thing you don't deserve, and that's to die by her hand. The sect leader's eyes widened in realization, and he began to laugh. You traitorous filth. You're in love with your own aunt. You two are. Yankee silenced him forever, plunging the sword into his heart before he could utter another word of insult. He then turned to his aunt. Don't worry. No one else will ever know what happened here tonight. You're going to cover for me? Yes and no. Before I entered this secret chamber, I couldn't understand why you wouldn't just report him to the elders, but after seeing all this, I get it. The sect leader was a monster himself. If it were me, I would have wanted to cut him into 1,000 pieces with my own hands. Aunt, this disciple has been unfilled. I have fallen deeply in love with you. Please accept me. A faint blush colored Ruinli's cheeks, but she quickly hid it. You love me? Do you know how many people I've killed? A vicious person like me already belongs in hell. Your love is better directed elsewhere. But even after hearing that, her nephew resolutely took her hand. Then I will go to hell with you. Now that I have also killed, we are in the same boat. Please, Aunt, trust me. I will never let you get hurt again. Ruinli hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she was just an outsider in this world, an actress playing the part of the villainess. She reached out, took the sword from his hand, and in one swift motion, drew the blade across her own neck. She collapsed. Her nephew rushed forward, catching her and frantically trying to pour his own life force into her, trying to save a person who was already gone. With her last breath, she explained, "Don't waste your energy. My life was already at its end. I wouldn't have survived the night anyway. Yankee, my death is not a big deal. When I'm gone, pin all the crimes on me. Remember, I killed everyone. And you? You are the hero who stopped the killer. This is my last and only request." With those words, she went silent, leaving him clutching her body, his cries echoing in the chamber. Current world mission complete. Objective 1. Harm fellow disciples. Achieved. Objective 2. Kill the sect leader. Achieved. Objective 3. Die by the male lead sword. Achieved. She never expected the mission to end like that. As her consciousness prepared to depart for the next world, she glanced back one last time at Yankee. What a silly boy. 3 days later, Yankee officially became the new sect leader of the Cloud Immortal sect. Under his leadership, the dark secrets of the previous sect leader and the deceased disciples were all brought to light, shocking the entire sect. Yankee ruled with integrity and justice, completely reforming the sect from the ground up. In just 3 years, the Cloud Immortal sect became the #1 sect on the continent. 100 years later, he lived up to his name as a child of destiny, becoming the undisputed #1 cultivator in the world. However, he never took a wife and remained alone for the rest of his